The jungle was alive with sound. Birds cried out from the treetops, insects hummed in the thick air, and distant thunder rolled like a sleeping giant. In the middle of this endless green stood an old stone pyramid, half covered by vines and moss. Few had seen it in centuries. Dr. Daniel Ruiz, an archaeologist with dark hair and patient eyes, stood near the base of the structure. Sweat rolled down his neck as he studied the strange carvings on a broken stone tablet. Around him, his small team worked carefully, brushing away dirt and cataloging fragments. They had been here for weeks,
searching for what local legends called the Underworld of Jade. Some believed it was a myth, a story told by the old Mayan tribes to frighten their children.
But Daniel had seen something in an ancient codex, a pattern of symbols that didn't belong to any known language. It spoke of a city beneath the greenstones, a place where men walked with gods made of light. His assistant, Lena Torres, approached, carrying a scanner device. She was young, clever, and skeptical of the old stories. "Dr. Ruiz," she said, wiping sweat from her brow, "the ground readings are strange again. There's something metallic under the temple floor." Daniel looked up. "Metallic? Are you sure?" She nodded and handed him the small screen. The device showed repeating waves like a heart beating deep under the earth. "At first I thought it was a glitch," she said. "But the pattern is too regular. It's not a natural echo." Daniel frowned, staring at the data. This looks like a signal." Lena laughed lightly. "A signal from what? A buried radio station?" But Daniel didn't laugh. His instincts, sharpened by years of studying ancient ruins, told him something powerful was hidden below. "No," he said softly. "This is older. Much older." The sun began to sink, painting the sky in orange and red. The team set up lights around the temple base, their generators humming quietly. Daniel couldn't rest. That rhythmic pulse, steady and precise, played through his mind like a heartbeat calling from the past. As night fell, Daniel sat near the temple wall, tracing the carvings with his fingers. The images showed strange scenes. Men standing beside tall figures with elongated limbs, stars above their heads, and rivers of glowing stones. He whispered to himself, they weren't worshipping gods. They were recording something they saw. Lena came over with 2 cups of coffee. "Still thinking about the signal?" He nodded. "The Mayans called this place Xibalba, the underworld. But what if it wasn't a myth? What if there really is something down there?" She smiled faintly. "If we find another chamber, it'll be your biggest discovery." Daniel looked at her and said, "No, Lena. It could be humanity's biggest discovery." The next morning, the jungle woke early, and so did they. The team began clearing a circular section at the base of the temple. The scanners kept showing the same pulse, slow, steady, mechanical. Daniel ordered them to dig carefully. By midday, one of the workers shouted, "Now, Doctor, you should see this." They had uncovered something unexpected, a smooth green surface beneath the earth. It wasn't stone or jade, not exactly. It reflected light like polished glass, but felt cool like metal. Daniel knelt and touched it gently. The surface vibrated faintly, as if alive. "This isn't natural," he whispered. Lena crouched beside him. "Could it be volcanic glass?" He shook his head. "No volcano could make this. This was built." The team cleared more of the surface until they revealed a perfect circle, about 2 meters wide, with carvings around the edge. The symbols weren't entirely Mayan. Some looked almost mathematical. Spirals, intersecting triangles, and repeating numbers. Daniel ran his hand along the rim and felt a faint groove. "It's a door," he said. Lena stared. "A door to what?" He smiled slightly. "Let's find out." They brought in equipment, a small generator, cables, and a resonance scanner. When Daniel powered the scanner, the circle began to hum. The carvings around it glowed faintly green, as if something below had awakened. Then, with a deep grinding sound, the circular slab slid inward and vanished into the ground. Everyone stepped back, shielding their faces from the sudden burst of cold air. A long, narrow tunnel stretched below, lined with dark stone and faint light. Lena shivered. "It's freezing." Daniel's breath came out as mist. "Air that hasn't touched the surface in thousands of years." He turned on his flashlight and stepped closer to the opening. We go in slowly. No one touches anything until I say so. The tunnel was steep and smooth, leading deep beneath the temple. Their footsteps echoed softly as they descended. The light from their lamps reflected off what looked like embedded crystals in the walls, green, blue, and silver. They weren't decorations. They looked like conduits, carrying faint lines of light deeper into the darkness. Lena whispered, "This doesn't feel like a tomb." Daniel nodded. "Because it isn't." At the bottom of the tunnel, they entered a wide chamber. The walls were covered in carvings showing planets, stars, and strange machines. In the center stood a raised platform with a broken console covered in dust and vines. Daniel brushed off the dirt and gasped. The carvings were not random. They looked like schematics, lines, circles, and runes connected in a design that seemed both artistic and technological. "This isn't Mayan," he said quietly. "This is something else." Lena tilted her head. "Something alien?" Before Daniel could answer, the pulse from the scanners above grew louder. The floor beneath them vibrated and green light filled the chamber. The carvings on the wall began to glow one by one like a pattern awakening after centuries of sleep. Lena took a step back. "What's happening?" Daniel stared at the walls, his heart racing. "It's responding to us." A low hum filled the air and symbols rearranged themselves on the wall, shifting into patterns they could understand. One symbol blinked slowly, 3 dots in a triangle surrounded by a circle. Then a sound echoed through the room. Not human, not mechanical, but something between the two. It spoke in a language no one knew. Yet Daniel felt something inside him stir, as if part of him understood. "It's not words," he said. "It's tones, a frequency." The light dimmed for a moment, then focused on a single doorway at the far end of the chamber. The outline of the door shone like molten jade, and a faint mist drifted through the cracks. Lena whispered, "Should we go in?" Daniel hesitated. His heart told him yes, but his mind screamed no. "We'll mark it for now," he said. "We need to study the readings first." They began setting up equipment, taking samples, and photographing the symbols. Daniel couldn't stop staring at the glowing doorway. It was as if the city beneath the earth was calling out to him, waiting for someone who could awaken it fully. Later that night, as the others rested, Daniel stayed awake by the console, examining the patterns. He placed his hand on one of the glowing carvings. For a brief moment, he felt warmth spread through his palm. The wall responded. The glow brightened, and the same rhythmic pulse echoed again, stronger this time. Lena stirred from her sleeping bag. "Doctor, what are you doing?" Daniel turned toward her, his eyes wide with awe. "It's communicating. With us?" He nodded slowly, and "No, with me." The chamber trembled faintly. Dust fell from the ceiling. The pulse quickened. Somewhere deep below, another light turned on, faint but steady. The buried city was waking, and Daniel could feel it. He whispered softly, "We've just opened the first door." The jungle above was silent when morning came. Mist hung over the trees, and the rising sun painted the temple in soft gold. But below the ground, far beneath the stone steps, something ancient had already awakened. Dr. Daniel Ruiz didn't sleep much that night. He kept staring at the glowing carvings, still amazed that they reacted to human touch. The rhythmic pulse continued, faint but steady, like a heartbeat deep under the earth. Lena Torres, his assistant, joined him near the entrance. She looked tired but curious. "I couldn't sleep either," she said, handing him a cup of warm coffee. "That sound, it's still going." Daniel nodded. "Yes, it hasn't stopped since last night." He tapped the small device beside him. It showed faint vibrations every few seconds. "It's like the city is breathing," Lena frowned. "City? We don't even know what this place is yet." Daniel smiled faintly. "Not yet. But the carvings, they show buildings, people, and lights. I think we're standing above something much bigger." She stared down the tunnel. "You really think there's a city under all this rock?" Daniel looked at her. "I don't think it, Lena. I feel it." The team gathered after breakfast, ready to continue exploring the lower chambers. Daniel led them deeper through the glowing doorway they had found last night. The air grew colder with each step, and their flashlights reflected off smooth green walls. After several minutes, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern. Everyone stopped in awe. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. The cavern stretched as far as the light could reach. Towers of shimmering jade rose from the ground, their surfaces carved with glowing patterns. Bridges made of crystal connected them high above, and rivers of clear water ran between the stone streets, reflecting the light like liquid glass. Lena gasped. It's beautiful. Daniel's voice was almost a whisper. We found it. The city of Jade. For a long moment no one spoke. They simply stared at the site before them. A place built with impossible precision, untouched for thousands of years. The team began walking slowly down the stone path. Their footsteps echoed softly. The closer they got to the structures, the more detail they saw. Carvings of human figures standing beside tall, slender beings with glowing eyes. The same three-dot symbol appeared everywhere and on walls, floors, and doorways. Lena pointed to one large mural. Look at this, she said. These people, they're giving something to the tall figures. Daniel examined it closely. The carving showed humans offering red crystals to the tall beings. The crystals seemed to glow faintly even now. It's energy, Daniel said softly. They were sharing power. You mean the Mayans worked with them? Lena asked. Daniel nodded slowly. It looks that way. They continued further until they reached a circular platform surrounded by tall statues. In the center was a pedestal made of silver stone. On top lay a large jade tablet covered in writing. Daniel wiped away the dust carefully. The symbols shimmered faintly, rearranging themselves as if alive. Words began forming in English letters, glowing softly. The guardians of blood await the return of their creators. Lena took a step back. What does that mean? Daniel stared at the glowing words. It means this place was never abandoned. It's waiting. The others exchanged nervous looks. One of the workers whispered, waiting for what? Daniel didn't answer. He walked slowly around the pedestal, noticing several small devices embedded in the floor, round, metal-like discs that pulsed with faint light. He crouched beside one and touched it lightly. The light brightened, and a wave of energy rippled through the floor. Suddenly images filled the air, holograms of stars, ships, and strange creatures. Everyone gasped. It's a projection, Lena said. Daniel watched, mesmerized. The holograms showed an enormous city floating in space, alien towers, glowing pathways, and creatures working beside humans. Then the image shifted to Earth, a jungle, temples, and the same city of Jade beneath them. The projection's final image showed a group of tall beings shaking hands with humans. Then everything faded. Lena turned to Daniel. If that was real, then these beings came here thousands of years ago. Daniel nodded slowly. And they didn't just visit. They built this place with our ancestors. As they explored deeper, they found another chamber. This one filled with tall, glass-like pods standing in neat rows. Each pod contained a still figure inside. When Daniel brushed dust off the glass, he froze. Inside lay a human, perfectly preserved, a man wearing ancient Mayan jewelry, his face calm, his skin unaged. It looked as if he had fallen asleep yesterday. Lena covered her mouth. He's alive? Daniel checked closely. The man wasn't breathing, but his skin had color. Not alive, Daniel said quietly. But not dead either. Somehow they preserved him. They moved from pod to pod. Some contained humans, others tall beings with strange, elegant faces. They were working together, Lena whispered. And when something went wrong, they sealed themselves here. Daniel nodded. Maybe to protect the technology, or to wait for someone who could wake them. He looked again at the human inside the glass. The man's wrist bore a mark, the same three-dot symbol surrounded by a circle. A low hum filled the chamber. One of the pods began to glow. Lena jumped back. What's happening? Daniel turned to the pedestal near the wall. It was pulsing with the same green light as before. The system's reacting again, he said. The air vibrated softly and a voice filled the chamber. Clear, calm, and not entirely human. Heir of the bloodline, you have returned. The sound echoed around them. The team froze. Lena whispered, who said that? Daniel didn't answer. The light focused on him. The markings on the walls glowed brighter, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. It was as if the city recognized him. The voice spoke again. The line is restored. Access granted. The ground trembled slightly. Then several doors opened around the chamber, revealing hallways filled with glowing vines and strange machines. Lena turned to Daniel. It's responding to you, why? Daniel looked down at his hands, his heart racing. I don't know. Maybe my DNA matches something in their system. You mean they expected someone like you to come back? Maybe, he said. Or maybe I just woke up a machine that's been waiting for thousands of years. They moved through one of the newly opened corridors. It led to a high balcony overlooking the entire underground city. From here they could see everything: jade towers, crystalline bridges, and rivers of light. The sight was breathtaking, Lena whispered. It's like a sleeping world. Daniel nodded. And we just told it to wake up. Below them, faint lights began flickering across the city, like stars turning on one by one. The air filled with a soft hum, and streams of energy flowed through the streets. It looked alive again, but not everyone felt wonder. One of the workers, a man named Raul, looked nervous. Dr. Ruiz, maybe we should leave. We don't know what kind of power this is. Daniel shook his head. We can't leave now. This is history. Raul frowned. Or a trap. A sudden flash of light made everyone turn. In the distance, one of the jade towers began to move, panels sliding open like flower petals. Inside, something large shimmered, shaped like a statue but alive with energy. Lena stepped closer to the railing. Daniel, look. The object rose slowly, a tall figure of jade and silver, its eyes glowing faintly red. It looked human in shape, but far too perfect, too precise. The air around it rippled as it came to life. Then another figure rose beside it. Then another. Dozens of them across the city, Daniel whispered. Guardians. The ancient voice spoke again, echoing through every corridor. The guardians of blood rise once more. The glowing figures turned their heads in unison, their eyes scanning the cavern. Then, one of them looked directly toward Daniel and his team. Its chest glowed and a soft vibration filled the air. Lena grabbed Daniel's arm. We need to go. Daniel hesitated, staring down at the city that had waited centuries for this moment. The guardians didn't move closer, not yet. They simply stood there watching. Not now, Daniel said quietly. We need to understand what they want. Lena shook her head. Or we'll end up just like those people in the pods. Daniel turned back toward the corridor. The hum of the city grew louder, filling every corner with energy. He looked once more at the towers, the glowing bridges, and the motionless guardians. He whispered to himself, It's not just history we found. It's a civilization waiting to return. And as they made their way back toward the tunnel, the rhythmic pulse followed them. Steady, patient, alive. The city of Jade had awakened and it was watching. The team barely spoke as they climbed back to the surface. The narrow tunnel echoed with the sound of their boots, and behind them, the faint hum of the awakening city followed like a whisper that refused to die. When Daniel finally stepped into the sunlight again, he blinked hard, feeling almost blinded by the brightness. It felt strange to see the green jungle after hours in that world of jade and shadow. Lena sat down on a fallen log, wiping the sweat from her forehead. She looked at him and said, We should report this. Whatever's down there, it's not safe. Daniel didn't reply immediately. He stared back at the temple's dark opening. If we tell anyone, they'll seal it off. Governments, corporations, they'll take control before we understand what it is. Lena frowned. Daniel, we saw machines moving down there. Guardians. We don't even know if they're friendly. He finally turned to her. They didn't attack us, did they? They saw me and they stopped. That means something. Lena sighed, brushing dirt from her hands. Or maybe they're waiting for an order. Daniel didn't argue. Deep inside, he knew she might be right. But his curiosity was stronger than fear. Something deep within him felt connected to that place. When the walls had glowed under his touch, it was as if the city had recognized him. That night, the jungle grew quiet again. But the pulse beneath the earth continued. Steady, alive, impossible to ignore. The next morning, Daniel gathered his team again. We're going back down, he said. Raul, one of the workers, looked uneasy. Doctor, are you sure? The statues moved last time. Yes, Daniel said calmly, and we need to find out why. Lena crossed her arms. You think it's all linked to the carvings? I think it's linked to blood, Daniel replied softly. The writings kept mentioning it. The guardians of blood. I don't think they mean sacrifice. I think they mean something genetic, human DNA. The others stared at him, unsure what to say. When they descended again, the air felt different, colder, sharper. The jade walls no longer looked dead and ancient. They shimmered faintly, alive with veins of green light that pulsed in rhythm. They followed a narrow hallway leading to a new chamber that hadn't opened before. The entrance was marked by carvings of human figures connected by glowing lines that resembled veins. Inside, they found what looked like a control center. The walls were covered in smooth panels that glowed softly when Daniel approached. In the center of the room was a large circular structure filled with transparent liquid, with thin tubes running from it like veins spreading through the walls. Lena stared in awe. What is this place? Daniel studied the structure. It looks like some kind of power core. He stepped closer. Inside the liquid, small particles of red light moved slowly, swirling like blood in water. Raoul shuddered. That's not natural. Daniel's scanner beeped, showing readings off the scale. It's organic, he said. Part biological, part machine. This entire city runs on a living energy source. Lena frowned. So the Mayans were part of it? Daniel nodded. I think they were the key. Their DNA was used to power this place. He moved around the chamber, reading the ancient carvings. The words slowly rearranged themselves into English, glowing softly. The circuit of blood unites creation and command. Only those of the bloodline may awaken the system. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Bloodline, he whispered. That's why it responded to me. Lena looked at him sharply. You think you're part of that bloodline? Daniel shrugged, unsure. Maybe a descendant of those who worked with the aliens. Maybe the system still remembers their code in human DNA. He reached out to touch one of the glowing panels, but Lena caught his wrist. Wait, you don't know what it'll do. I have to know, he said quietly. His fingers brushed the surface, and immediately, the chamber lit up. The veins of light running along the walls turned bright red, and the circular core began to spin. The red particles inside it pulsed faster and faster until they formed a glowing sphere. A deep hum filled the room, followed by a voice echoing from everywhere at once. Connection established. Blood signature confirmed. Lena took a step back. Daniel, what did you do? I activated the system, he said, eyes wide. The walls shifted, forming new shapes. Holographic screens appeared, showing streams of symbols, diagrams of DNA, and maps of the city. At the center, a single phrase blinked in light. Reconstruction of the hybrid order in progress. Lena frowned. Hybrid order? What does that mean? Daniel moved closer to one of the displays. The hologram showed figures that looked human, but their skin shimmered faintly like crystal. Their eyes glowed green. They were trying to merge humans with themselves, Daniel said softly. They wanted a shared species, you're part human, part alien. Raoul looked horrified. That's impossible. Not impossible, Daniel replied. Just forgotten. He tapped another projection showing the city's history. It depicted tall alien beings working alongside Mayans, exchanging symbols and technology. But the final part of the sequence showed chaos. The aliens leaving, explosions shaking the city, and the hybrids sealing themselves in pods. Lena watched silently. They tried to keep the project alive, and failed. Daniel nodded. They didn't die. They froze themselves until the system found the right bloodline to restart the circuit. Suddenly, a sharp alarm echoed through the chamber. The red light turned darker, almost crimson. The voice returned. Energy reserves unstable. Biological interface required. The system was asking for something, a biological source to stabilize itself. Lena backed away. Daniel, we need to leave now. It's calling for a host. But before he could move, one of the tubes extended from the wall, thin as glass, glowing red. It brushed Daniel's arm and drew a small drop of blood. He gasped in surprise. The machine absorbed the droplet, and the entire room lit up again. The hum grew deeper, louder, almost like a heartbeat. Stabilization complete. Circuit active. The holograms changed, showing streams of red energy spreading through the city's veins. Across the underground world, towers and bridges began to glow brighter. Lena whispered, You just powered the entire city. Daniel stared at his hand, where a faint mark, the same 3 dots inside a circle, now glowed under his skin. It used my blood as a key. The city reacted instantly. The ground trembled, and from somewhere deep below, mechanical footsteps echoed. The Guardians had awakened again. Daniel and his team ran to the balcony overlooking the city. Below, hundreds of tall figures now stood glowing bright green. Their eyes fixed on the central tower, and for the first time they moved in unison, walking toward it like soldiers answering a silent call. Lena looked at Daniel. They're following your signal. He shook his head, unsure. No, they're following the system. I just reactivated the command network. A holographic figure appeared beside him. Tall, translucent, with calm, glowing eyes. Its voice was neither male nor female. Human of the bloodline, it said. The Guardians await your orders. Daniel swallowed hard. I don't give orders. Who are you? We are the Builders, the figure replied. We guided your ancestors. Together we forged this city. You were meant to continue our design, Lena whispered. You mean they planned all this thousands of years ago? The hologram nodded. The project was interrupted. Conflict arose. The hybrids rebelled, believing themselves gods. We left this world to heal, waiting for your return. Daniel's voice trembled. And now that I've returned, what happens? The city will rise again, the figure said. The blood circuit is complete. The tremors grew stronger. Across the city, jade bridges began to shift, reassembling themselves into new shapes. The glowing towers expanded, sending beams of green light through the cavern ceiling. Lena grabbed Daniel's arm. If those beams reach the surface, the world will see this. We have to stop it! Daniel turned back to the hologram. How do we shut it down? You cannot, it replied calmly. It is life itself. To stop it is to end the bloodline. Daniel took a deep breath. Then I'll end it if I have to. He rushed to the console, searching for a manual override. The hologram flickered but did not interfere. Lena helped him, pressing random symbols. The red lights began to dim slightly. Warning, the voice boomed. Interference detected. The ground shook violently. Cracks formed along the jade walls. Raoul shouted, Doctor, the tunnel is collapsing. Lena yelled, Daniel, we have to go. But Daniel stayed a moment longer, pressing his bloody hand against the console. The system flickered once more. The hologram's voice grew softer. You cannot destroy what you are. Then the power core dimmed and the Guardians froze in place once again. The lights across the city faded back to green. The hum stopped. For a long moment there was silence, deep and endless. Lena touched his shoulder. You did it. Daniel nodded weakly, his hand still glowing faintly. No, he said quietly. I only paused it. He looked down at the sleeping city, the thousands of silent Guardians, and the faint red lines still pulsing beneath the floor. The blood circuit wasn't dead. It was only waiting. He turned to Lena, his voice calm but certain. This place is alive, and it remembers us. The silence that followed the tremor was almost worse than the shaking itself. Dust floated down from the ceiling, and the green light that filled the underground city flickered like a heartbeat slowing down. Daniel stood at the center of the grand hall, his flashlight trembling slightly in his hand. Lena and the rest of the team looked at him, fear and confusion written across their faces. What did you do? Lena whispered, her voice echoing against the jade walls. Daniel stared at his palm. The cut he had made earlier was still visible, a thin red line across his skin. A single drop of his blood had fallen onto the strange circular platform before everything came alive. The machines had recognized him somehow. He hadn't meant for it to happen. Before he could answer, the floor beneath them began to move. The carved tiles separated and rose slowly, forming tall shapes. Each piece of jade and metal connected like parts of a puzzle until they formed giant humanoid figures. The Guardians. Their bodies shimmered with patterns that looked like veins made of gold. Their eyes, two deep red crystals, glowed brightly in the dim hall. Everyone stepped back. Cameras clicked. Someone whispered a short prayer. The Guardians turned their heads toward Daniel. The sound of grinding stone filled the air. They took slow, heavy steps forward until they stood in a line, towering over the humans. Daniel expected them to attack, but instead they knelt. The motion sent a small shockwave through the ground. Lena gasped. They're bowing to you. Daniel could hardly breathe. No, they think I'm someone else. A sudden light burst from the walls. Holographic images appeared, ancient Mayans working beside tall, silver-skinned beings. The aliens had long limbs and bright eyes, and they used strange tools to shape jade and gold. The scenes showed the aliens teaching humans to build, to write, and to look toward the stars. The voice of the city echoed again, calm and emotionless. Air of the bloodline detected. Protocol of rebirth initiated. Machines across the city activated. Rivers of glowing energy began flowing through channels along the floor, spreading light into every corner. Lena watched in awe. Rebirth? What does that mean? Daniel swallowed hard. It means they think I'm part of whatever created this place. He turned toward one of the holograms. It showed a human man standing beside an alien leader. Together, they placed their hands on a glowing sphere, a symbol of unity. Daniel realized that the alien technology must have bonded with ancient Mayan DNA long ago. Over generations, that connection passed through bloodlines. Maybe his ancestors were part of that. As the realization settled in, another image appeared, this time of war. The sky turned red. The humans and aliens fought side by side against creatures made of shadow. Daniel couldn't understand what they were, but it was clear that something had gone wrong in the past. The holograms flickered and vanished, replaced by a new light coming from the ceiling. A large crystal lowered from above, glowing like molten gold. Its voice filled the air again. Command authorization required. Restore or destroy the balance, Daniel frowned. Restore or destroy? What is it talking about? The Guardians rose again, their red eyes pulsing in rhythm with the crystal's light. One of them raised its arm and projected a new hologram, a map of the entire city. Thousands of chambers, tunnels, and towers spread beneath the earth like roots. At the center was a bright core labeled Heart Chamber. Lena pointed. That's the reactor. The power source you talked about. Daniel nodded slowly. And it's waking up. They felt another tremor. The ground shook violently, sending pieces of stone crashing down. The energy lines across the floor turned from green to orange. It looked as though the city was breathing faster, alive again after sleeping for thousands of years. Daniel and the team hurried through the hallways, followed by the sound of the Guardians moving. It wasn't a chase. It was a march. They were following him. Every step they took made the tunnels shake. They reached a wide balcony overlooking a deep chamber filled with moving light. Below them, hundreds of smaller machines were repairing walls, rebuilding bridges, and cleaning old surfaces. The city was returning to life on its own. This is incredible, Lena whispered. It's like watching history rebuild itself. But Daniel didn't smile. Or a weapon waking up. He looked toward the center of the chamber where the Jade heart pulsed brighter with every second. The heat coming from it was strong enough to make the air shimmer. Suddenly, the voice spoke again, louder this time. Surface link restored. Planetary synchronization in progress. Daniel's eyes widened. No, it's connecting to the surface. If the city connected fully, it might affect Earth's magnetic field or release unknown technology to the surface. There was no way to know what would happen. He had to stop it. He turned to Lena. We need to shut down the reactor before it finishes sinking. How? We don't even know where the control panel is. He looked again at the holographic map hovering in front of him. One section near the core glowed brighter than the rest. There, that must be it. They hurried down a spiral ramp leading into the lower chamber. The air grew hotter with every step. Steam hissed from cracks in the floor. Strange mechanical vines glowing faintly climbed the walls. They reached a massive gate made of jade plates carved with ancient symbols. Daniel placed his hand on it. The symbols reacted instantly, shifting to form a single Mayan glyph that meant blood. He hesitated. It wants another sample. Lena grabbed his arm. Are you sure? Last time it nearly brought this place to life. I don't have a choice. He pressed his bleeding palm to the gate. It glowed bright red and the huge doors slowly opened. The chamber beyond looked like the inside of a massive machine. Walls of spinning gears, glowing pipes, and a towering pillar of energy rising from a pool of liquid jade. At the center of the room was a crystal console shaped like a heart. It pulsed in time with Daniel's heartbeat. Lena stared. That's it. The city's core. As they approached, the Guardians followed silently, surrounding the chamber like statues. Daniel stepped closer to the console. We need to find a way to stop it. If it reaches full synchronization, this energy could spread across the world. Lena checked her scanner. It's almost there. Maybe 5 minutes left. Before they could react, the crystal above them changed color, from gold to deep crimson. The voice spoke again, but this time it sounded less mechanical and more alive. Rebirth sequence unstable. Defense protocol engaged. The Guardians suddenly turned toward Daniel and Lena. Their eyes flared brighter. They're not bowing anymore, Lena said quietly. No, Daniel replied, backing up slowly. Now they see us as threats. One Guardian stepped forward, raising its arm. A beam of red light shot past Daniel, missing him by inches and striking the wall behind. The impact melted the stone instantly. Daniel grabbed Lena's hand. "Run!" They sprinted through the chamber as beams of light sliced the air around them. Pieces of stone and jade crashed to the ground. Daniel ducked behind a column and looked up at the crystal heart. It was beating faster, feeding the Guardians with energy. He realized the only way to stop them was to cut off their power source. He climbed the stairs leading to the console. The closer he got, the louder the heartbeat grew, like thunder inside his chest. Lena shouted from below, "What are you doing?" "Ending this before it gets worse." He placed both hands on the console. The symbols rearranged again, showing two options: restore balance and shut down forever. He didn't hesitate. He pressed shut down. A blinding light filled the chamber. The Guardians froze mid-step, their eyes flickering. The ground rumbled, but this time it felt different, like something was closing instead of opening. The voice spoke one final time, softer now. "Heir of the bloodline, your choice is accepted. The balance will rest once more." The energy pillar dimmed. The heartbeat slowed. One by one, the Guardians turned back toward the heart, then collapsed into shards of jade. Lena rushed up the stairs as Daniel fell to his knees, breathing heavily. "You did it," she said. "It's over." But Daniel shook his head. "Not yet. We've only silenced it. The core still exists. We have to destroy it completely before someone else finds it." As they looked around the silent chamber, the remaining energy faded to a faint glow. The city had gone quiet again, but they both knew it wasn't truly dead. Somewhere deep within the walls, a single red light continued to blink slowly, like a sleeping heartbeat waiting to wake again. The jungle above the temple was quiet again, but Daniel Ruiz could still feel the pulse beneath his feet. The city of Jade had gone silent after the shutdown, yet its presence lingered like a shadow. Every vine, every stone, every breath of wind seemed to whisper of something waiting below. Daniel stood at the entrance to the tunnel, staring down into the darkness. Lena Torres came beside him, her flashlight cutting through the dim light. "Are we sure it's safe?" she asked quietly. He shook his head. "Safe? Nothing like that exists here. But we have to finish what we started. The city may awaken again if someone else discovers it. We can't leave it hidden in the wrong hands." Lena nodded, her face serious. "Then let's end this." They descended into the tunnels for the last time. The air was cooler, almost damp, and carried a faint metallic scent. Even the floor seemed to hum under their boots. The city's heartbeat, though silent to the human ear, was still alive. As they reached the heart chamber, Daniel paused. The jade pillars and walls glimmered faintly. The crystal console where he had activated the blood circuit still stood in the center, but the red glow was weak. The Guardians lay in shards of jade around the chamber, their forms frozen in eternal slumber. Daniel took a deep breath. "This time there's no going back. We have to destroy the core completely." Lena checked her scanner. "The energy signature is weaker than before. If we act now, we can remove it safely." He nodded. "Then let's begin." Daniel and Lena approached the crystal console. Its surface shimmered, reflecting the green glow of the chamber. The heart of jade pulsed faintly like a dying heartbeat. Daniel remembered the first time he had touched it. The way the city had awakened, the Guardians rising, the blood circuit running on his blood. It was almost alive, and it had wanted him to become its key. "Are you ready?" Lena asked. Daniel nodded. "Let's end it for everyone's safety." They activated the control panel. Symbols rearranged themselves across the console, the same ones Daniel had seen before, but now they shifted to show a single command: terminate core. As he pressed the final button, a shockwave of energy surged through the chamber. The crystal heart pulsed violently, then cracked along its center. A soft hum filled the room, fading into silence. The shards of the Guardians' bodies shimmered briefly, then crumbled into dust. Daniel exhaled, feeling the weight of the centuries lift. Lena smiled faintly, relief written on her face. "It's done," she said. "The city is quiet now." But as they turned to leave, a soft light caught Daniel's eye. At the far end of the chamber, a narrow passage had opened. Through it, a faint green glow beckoned. He frowned. "I didn't see that before." Lena looked uneasy. "Maybe it's another section of the city." Daniel stepped forward, curiosity stronger than caution. The passage led them into a smaller chamber, unlike the others. The walls were carved with murals showing the history of the Mayans and their alien collaborators. It was a peaceful scene, humans and tall, glowing beings working together, teaching each other, sharing knowledge. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and atop it rested a small object, a perfectly smooth jade sphere. Unlike the heart, it was calm, quiet, and seemed untouched by the chaos of the blood circuit. Daniel reached out. The sphere pulsed softly in his hand. He could feel warmth radiating from it, a gentle heartbeat that wasn't threatening. Lena stepped closer. "What is it?" Daniel shook his head. "I don't know, but it feels different. This one wasn't meant to destroy. Maybe it's the last piece of the city's memory, a key to what they wanted to preserve, not to control." They studied the sphere together. Light shimmered across its surface, forming images of humans learning, building, and exploring. It was as if the city itself had stored its wisdom in the sphere, hoping someone would one day find it and understand. Daniel whispered, "This isn't power. It's knowledge." They decided to take the jade sphere with them. As they climbed the tunnel toward the surface, the city remained silent below. No hum, no heartbeat, no movement. It seemed to understand that its master was gone, and now, for the first time in millennia, the underground city was at rest. The jungle greeted them with soft morning light. Birds called to each other from the trees, and insects filled the air with their buzzing. The world above had no idea what lay beneath it. Daniel and Lena carried the sphere carefully. "What will we do with it?" Lena asked. He thought for a moment. "We study it. We document everything, and we keep it safe. Knowledge like this, it could help humanity, but only if it's understood properly." Lena nodded. "Agreed. But no one else can know about this place. If it falls into the wrong hands..." Daniel didn't need to finish the sentence. He had seen what the city could do if misused. The blood circuit had nearly unleashed chaos. The last thing humanity needed was another chance at that power. Back at their camp, they set up a small lab to examine the sphere. It pulsed gently in the center of the table, casting green and gold light across their faces. Daniel ran his fingers over the smooth surface. Tiny inscriptions appeared, instructions in an ancient language he couldn't fully read, but some of it seemed familiar. "This is incredible," Lena said. "It's like a library, but alive." Daniel nodded. "And it wants to teach us, not control us. That's the difference. The Guardians in the blood circuit were about power. This is wisdom." They spent days documenting everything. The sphere revealed knowledge of engineering, astronomy, medicine, and architecture, things far beyond what Daniel had ever seen. Every detail was stored as holographic images that appeared when touched. For Daniel, it was more than archaeology. It was a connection to the past, to humans who had walked alongside beings from the stars. He realized that the Mayans had not just built pyramids, they had built bridges to knowledge far greater than their own time. Weeks passed. The jungle above remained quiet, hiding the temple and the city beneath. Daniel and Lena completed their research, compiling everything they could into secure files. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in gold and red, Daniel held the sphere in his hands. It pulsed softly, almost like it understood their intentions. Lena asked, "Do you think it will ever awaken again?" Daniel shook his head. "Not unless someone like us comes." The city was waiting for someone with the right mind, not just the right blood. And now, we've chosen to protect it, not use it. She smiled faintly. A sleeping city of jade and blood, safe at last. He nodded. Safe and full of knowledge. That's the real treasure. As they prepared to leave, Daniel looked once more toward the hidden temple. Somewhere below, deep in the earth, the jade city waited in silence. The Guardians were gone, the blood circuit dormant. But the memory of the collaboration between humans and aliens remained. It was a gift, preserved for those wise enough to learn, not destroy. And Daniel knew as he and Lena disappeared into the jungle that the city of Jade would remain hidden, a secret of the past, a promise for the future. For centuries it had waited, and now thanks to their careful hands it would wait safely for generations to come.